Hari Om. In chapter 12, Arjun is at the crossroads in the sense that his first question is whether Bhagwan is to be reached as a nirgun, which means as an abstract entity, a consciousness, a vast, ineffable consciousness which can't be reached through the senses, or is there a way of having a sagun form? This question itself shows his naivety, because actually, if you see, when we use the sagun form, that is the bhakti form, for worship, we use a certain form to prop our senses on, isn't it? In the sense, to support our senses, because our senses are running in the world, to hold on, to cling on, to have a kind of a hook or a crutch. We use these idols and rituals. Yes. So, what he was asking is, which one is better? But the question itself is a little askew, because our sagun bhakti is actually the method, and nirgun is actually the end, is the uddeshya. So it's not as if this or that, ye kare ki wo kare. The question itself shows his naivety. One is a method, yes, I use sagun bhakti to use form, but my ultimate uddeshya, the sadhya. So my sadhya is that nirgun, that consciousness, that abstract infinity, that absolute truth. That is nirgun. It doesn't have attributes. One is a sadhana, which is an effort or a ritual, and the other is a sadhya. So we have to be very careful. You know why so much time has been taken over and over, even in the Gita and in our Guru's classes also, to distinguish between sagun and nirgun bhakti, because very, very often people mistake one for the other. And then we have this kind of a tussle कि अरे जो लोग भक्ति में डूबे हुए होते हैं वो कहते हैं कि अरे ये लोग क्या दिन भर खाली पढ़ते रहते हैं, पढ़ने से कोई अक्षर ज्ञान से कोई भगवान प्राप्त होता है. They can't even fathom how it's done. And the one who is into gyan, which means shravanam, listening to the words of the Mahatmas and the Rishis through the scriptures, shravanam, mananam, contemplating on it, and nitidhyasanam, holding on to it through our through our meditative effort. Okay, so there are only 3 steps that a jnani does, and a bhakta cannot understand for his life कि ये कैसे भगवत प्राप्ति करेंगे. And the jnani says, ये क्या भजन करते रहते हैं, and ringing the cymbals and the drums and singing in great ecstasy and emotionalism and going into places of worship and tirtha yatras. How in heaven can they attain that which is infinite, which is dhruvam, which is eternal and which is everywhere, and how can they get it through this kind of an action? So a jnani also somehow is at a loss. Now, in this chapter, we are going to get some clarity on what they call the Gyan Marg or the Nirguna Bhakti and the Saguna Bhakti. Some clarity on it. And we must remember, neither of the two are higher or lower. Once again, I may emphasize that we take one or the other path. Of course, Nirgun Bhakti is the Uddeshya, the Dhyaya or the Sadhya, and also the method. But how do we chance upon these 2 methods? Like right now what we are doing is predominantly, of course we may go and we may do our worship also after this and all our, if we have a ritualistic meditation timing and schedule, yes, we may do all that. But 80% of what we are doing is actually Shravanam, Mananam and Nitidhyasanam, the understanding of that truth through the scriptures. If we do that now, it is only and only because of our interest, ruchi, of our yogyata, because our minds have been trained to look for logic and rationale, because we have grown up in the Western setup. So logic and rational, and so our mind seeks that, and therefore that yogyata and capacity of our minds is of that nature, and our Shraddha is in that what I can understand through my buddhi is what I can attain. Ye hamari Shraddha hai. It is my belief. So whatever my belief, Shraddha, and my yogyata, my capacity and my interest, I will head for that path only. No path is higher or lower. It's only the seeker, the seeker's mind. Having made that very clear, now for some more clarity on these two, because Arjun's very first question was this, Nirgun ki sagun kya kare? So in the 7th chapter, Bhagwan had said, look, it is the quality of your life and your mind which determines where you are going to head. It is nothing to do with a particular path. Because first of all, we must remember, we are given so many methods. So there is Karma Yoga and Dhyan Yoga, and also there is Nishkam Karma and Karma Phal Tyag. That means even in Karma Yoga, you have an additional part where you can do your selfish gains, but just give the fruit up to God. We are coming to that. So in short, why does it end up confusing people? And then they say, pata nahi ye Gita kai ke baare mein thi, mujhe pata nahi hai. Okay, because Sanatan Dharma is a multi-lane highway. Now, if it's a multi-lane highway, it's up to me which lane I am going to be on. And that again is according to my capacity, my yogyata. If I don't have the yogyata for intensive studies, to study the scriptures, and because it does get heavy, because there are so many commentaries. So there's Madhavacharya's commentary, Shankaracharya's commentaries, Chinmayaji, Vivekanandji. Whom should I read? And I end up reading all of them and trying to make sense of it. Why? Because I don't even understand Sanskrit. So that kind of effort is needed. And somebody may say, look, this lane is not for me. Okay, no problem. Bhagwan does not despair, because the seeker is looking for a way out, and that's enough for Bhagwan. He says, all right, you just hang on to me and I will show you the way out. So in the 7th chapter, Bhagwan had already hinted. He said, Ichha dvesha samuthena dvandva mohena bharata. Ki simply ye samajh lo, you're a seeker, okay. You'll come on to the path, okay. पर पहले ये तो समझ लो कि तुम्हारा impediment क्या है. इच्छा द्वेष समुत्थेन, आपका राग और द्वेष इस दुनिया में, राग attraction, द्वेष dislikes and revulsion, ये दोनों चीजें आपको बांध के रखे हुई हैं. सर्वभूतानि सम्मोहम, ये कृष्ण ने कहा था 7th verse में, 7th chapter में, कि सर्वभूतानि, सभी लोग इस सम्मोह में हैं कि मैं इस दुनिया में राग और द्वेष को भोग करने आया हूँ. सर्गे यान्ति परंतप, सभी इसी में है. तो we are in the grip of rag and dvesh. If we understand the small hints that Bhagwan is giving us, along the way he gives us small tips कि यहाँ से right turn ले लो, वहाँ से U turn ले लो, maybe we're on the wrong path, but you stick to this particular direction. So these are hints. These are not direct paths. You know, कि राग द्वेष छोड़ दो और मुझे परमात्मा मिल जाएंगे. No, there's a lot of sadhana involved, and it goes step by step. And in the 5th chapter again he had told Arjun, Nirdvandvo hi mahabaho. Nirdvandva, dvandva यानी duality between rag and dvesh. इन दोनों के द्वंद्व के में अगर छूट जाओ तो सुखम बंधात प्रमुच्यते. You will be liberated. अभी 12th चैप्टर में आते आते अर्जुन फिर वही पूछ रहे हैं कि मैं जाऊं तो किस रास्ते जाऊं. So Bhagwan has no choice but to remind him. And like all of us, we can't internalize any knowledge by just listening to it once. कि हाँ, अब it's become part of my life. किसी ने हमको 2 दिन ध्यान सिखा दिया, अब मैं समाधि में जा सकता हूँ. ऐसे तो नहीं होता. So Bhagwan, in all his compassion, everywhere, 5th chapter, 7th chapter, he has kept repeating, in case lest Arjun forgets that look, it is his raga dvesh which is binding him to sansar. And therefore, whatever path you choose, first you have to unbind yourself. I'm tempted to, once again, I'm tempted with a story, and you may have heard this story. It's about a couple of dogs, 2 dogs, who were quarreling with each other, and in their tussle, they actually fell into the well in a village. Now the villagers after a while sensed that there is this great stench emanating from the well, and they must do something about it. Naturally, it's poisoning the water, and the odor is unbearable. So many people came to the village, and they, of course, in the panchayat, they asked the whole committee for advice. So one person said, okay, do one thing. You have to do a havan first. You know how it is in India. Even if there is corona, we end up doing a havan, and there have been so many cases and I'm not laughing about it. I'm saying yes, it helps, but in this case, let's see where it went. So they said do a havan, and then another committee member said, we're going to watch for a week. If it doesn't help, I have to give my suggestions. And of course it did not help. So he said, look, all you have to do is call 12 pandits, feed them, and do mantra ucharan. They will do mantra ucharan, and that will help, because mantra has its own power. So they did that too. Another week passed, and of course nothing happened. The odor from the well was absolutely unbearable, and the dogs, poor dogs, they were dead in the well. So what were these guys doing in the panchayat? They were looking for methods, a way out. Main kya karu? Kahan se niklu? We have to get out of this situation. Yes, of course, you have to. And the third person said, look, you have to take a bucket full of fragrant water. So it is perfumed water, and you just pour it into the well. So they did that, and there was some relief for a few days, and then back to square one. Then a wise man came finally to the village, and he said, what are you guys doing? Are you in your right mind? Before doing all this, get the dogs out of the well. So that's what we forget. मैं क्या कर लूँ, मैं कैसा ध्यान कर लूँ, मैं कौन सा ग्रंथ पढ़ लूँ, ये ग्रंथ पढ़ लूँ, कौन से गुरु महात्मा और बाबा जी के पास चला जाऊँ. Okay, there are many methods, but what is the thing which is causing the error, the mistake? And that, of course, Maharishi Patanjali had already reminded us yesterday. It is our avidya, not knowing who am I, and that is leading us to our asmita, कि मैं ये हूँ, मैं वो हूँ, मैं फला हूँ, मैं ढिकाना हूँ, and all false identities, of course, false because they are temporary. And that false identity of मैं ये हूँ, मैं वो हूँ, मेरा education इतना है, मेरा औधा इतना है, मेरा qualification और मेरा नाम, मान, पुत्र, पौत्र इतने हैं. Okay, I have identified with all this, and it is precisely this which is causing the next two obstacles, rag and dvesh. Because if I did not have an identity which was so bloated up with all the false things, I would have no rag, that is attachment to all the things that I own or have worked for, and no dvesh. So rag and dvesh are the third and the fourth impediments, which have been already mentioned by Maharishi Patanjali. And then the fear that arises if I do not get what my heart desires, or if I lose what I already have. So rag, attachment, causes fear. So fear is our last dead dog. The dead dog which is causing an unbearable odor in the life, in the mind, which is not allowing the mind to live in the white light of fragrance of pure consciousness. Where is the purity? Purity cannot come if these dead animals are floating around in our mind. So that story was there to say, पहले तो सबसे पहले अपने इन चीजों पर काम करो, which is causing you the dvandva of duality of rag and dvesh. This was already mentioned in 5th and 7th chapters, and in the 7th chapter Bhagavan had already said, te dvandva mohanir mukta bhajante mam dridhavritaha. So if you're free from this illusion कि ये राग है, I'm attached to these things, and dvesh, running away from or resisting things which I don't like, if you're free from this illusion, Bhagavan said simply, nirdvandva te dvandva mohanir muktaha. If you're liberated, bhajante mam dridhavritaha. All that remains for you is a pure mind. Then it is free, the mind and the buddhi, to reach the higher levels. Where is my well clean enough for me? Then of course I can do havan, and I can do chanting, I can do mantra jap, I can do all my swadhyay and sadhana and shravanam. जो भी path हम choose कर रहे हैं, that will become so much easier. So Bhagwan has mentioned it many times, but Arjun, like us, gets caught in this dilemma every now and then. And all his questions come from some dilemma or the other. So Bhagwan says, Dridha vritaha. Have you put your mind on me with determination? If you have, then I promise you, you will be free. That was already in the previous chapters. Now what we see right through Gita, not only in the 12th chapter, but right through Gita, there is a very, very big emphasis. No matter how irked we feel, कि भाई इतना repeat क्यों किए जा रहे हैं? That is Bhagwan's choice and Ved Vyasji's choice. We have no comment on that. Why does he keep repeating? There is a big emphasis right through Gita on clearing ourselves of rag and dvesh. But how? Because our mind is all the time spinning between the two of them. कोई चीज अनुकूल है, that means conducive to my liking. कोई प्रतिकूल है, inconducive to our taste. Finished. Our world is limited between these two. So Bhagwan says that is your call. You have to clear it up, and then I will take over. He mentions that in the 7th verse of 12th chapter. Before I come to that, a small word about Raga and Dvesha. Of course, we know ad nauseum we've heard about this Raga and Dvesha. But it's like the dogs are in the well and we are discussing it and talking about it and giving our opinions and standing at the well and talking about it, doing nothing about it. It's like that. So Osho had once said that actually one does not have to escape rag or dvesh, because when we say that there's this man, and there are always some people who take sannyas out of a sense of escape. I want to escape. ये परिवार में बहुत झंझटों में फंस गया हूँ. Business, परिवार, and extended family and relationships and or wealth or dhan ki problems and all this. And then he says, okay, one fine day I'm getting away from it. You know many people who have done that. Now what has happened is that when he gets away from it and he leaves it behind, the moment he has left it behind, he has a great aversion to it. कि अब मैं उस परिवार में और उस बिजनेस में या फिर से शुरू नहीं कर सकता हूँ मैं. इतना मन में द्वेष भरा हुआ है because he has suffered the sansari dukha. So because of the attachment, not because sansar has a dukh in itself. How can sansar in itself? It is an inert entity. हर वस्तु संसार में inert है. How can it by itself have the quality of sukha or dukha? But yes, my attachment to those things had caused me the sukha and dukha, and therefore he realized कि मुझे तो बहुत दुख मिला है, मैं निकल गया. The moment he is out of it, now no one can persuade him because he has a great dvesh. So go back to that business or go back to that city or that parivar or whatever we have left behind. This of course is an extreme case, but whatever it is that we have relinquished or dropped, it is out of our escape, out of our inability to put up with it, and therefore the dvesh remains. So Osho used to say कि तुम निकले कहाँ? तुम तो राग और द्वेष, two sides of the same coin, बीच में ही उसी में फंसे हो. Then what's the whole idea? The whole idea is that going beyond raga, dvesha, bhaya is a state of mind where the things outside that we are getting away from are left outside and we remain inside. Inside what? Inside of ourselves. अब मैं भीतर हो गया हूँ और बाहर की वस्तु बाहर ही है. वो वैसे भी बाहर ही थी. मैं उसको अपने अटैचमेंट और अपनी अट्रैक्शन और डिजायर की वजह से अंदर ले गया था. But they were always outside. अब मैं भीतर हूँ. I am safe. And now they cannot trouble me, those things outside. So now one is free from raga dvesha. So in short, what does this mean? In short, it means that the only thing which is binding us, the real us, the self, to the sansar outside, the inert sansar outside, is raga dvesh. It is the only binding force. These are the only chains, the only connecting force. There is only one connectivity. So when we see the import of it, the force of it, then we realize, what am I doing? because in this inert world I have myself chosen to tie myself up. मैं भीतर self मैं ही हूँ. No one can touch that. No one can deplete any of it. No one can rob me of it. Myself, the consciousness, is complete and whole and is always with me. And yet, the only thing which is binding me to the sansar is my raga and my dvesha, and I keep that binding force or that chain or that rope firmly tied to the sansar and to me. Me meaning the false me. मतलब वो अहम वाला मैं जो हूँ ना, मैं ये हूँ. वो अहम वाला मैं and the sansar, they are tied to each other and happily they are having a rocking time, experiencing the sukha and dukha of this poor jiva, Arjun and we and all of us, the poor jivas who are caught between the two. So essentially, whenever we react to something, it's not as if we are free from it. We are tied even more to it through dvesha, because we think more about it, especially if there are broken relationships or hurtful relationships, and we don't want to connect with some people. But those relationships and those hurts are constantly on the mind. So even though we don't want to be in touch and we make a distance between those things, we are in fact even more firmly tied to it. How? Through the chain of dvesha, resistance, reaction. So raga dvesha is not as easy as it sounds. And therefore Bhagwan, like a good teacher, like when we were learning geometry, in primary also we learned geometry, and in high school also we learned geometry, but it was not the same thing. In primary school we learned there are only 4 shapes, basic shapes, okay, square and triangle, whatever. That's how Bhagwan as a good teacher has made iterative circles. That means every time he mentions the same concept, he drives it deeper and deeper and deeper. So raga dvesha, not only not easy to understand with the buddhi, but to be free from it is one big challenge for the jiva. The jiva, that is me, who feels that I am a sansari individual separate from Paramatma, and Atma having no experience of it. So that is the jiva's experience. So therefore in the 7th verse of 12th chapter, 7th verse, some more guidance for us, and that is Teshamaham samudharta mrityu samsara sagarat. Out of that ocean of sansar. Now we have just described what this ocean is all about. This entire ocean of sansar was described even by Adi Shankaracharya ji. He said, Sansara swastulyo hi raga dvesha hi sankulaha. उनका इतना बड़ा डेफिनेशन था कि संसार को डिस्क्राइब करना हो तो ये 4 शब्द हैं कि एक कलेक्शन ऑफ राग द्वेष, बस यही है. संसार स्व तुल्यो ही राग द्वेष ही संकुलः. The words of Adi Shankaracharya. तो ये संसार के सागर से भगवान कहते हैं 7th verse में, don't worry. He is not as hard-hearted as Ashtavakra or Shankaracharya. If you read the text of Shankaracharya and Ashtavakra, they are so hard-hitting. They are almost cruel because they don't mince words. But Krishna is another kind of teacher altogether. He says, no, don't worry, don't despair. Wait, I'm here. I'm going to take you across this sansara sagar, which is full of raga dvesh. Bhavami nachiratma partha. Nachiratma, before long. तुमको बहुत जल्दी, before long. Nachirat, बहुत जल्दी. मैया वेशित चेतसाम. लेकिन एक काम करना होगा. मैया वेशित चेतसाम. अपना चेत जो है, चित मीन्स कॉन्शियसनेस, अपना माइंड, you have to keep on me. मैया, एक कंडीशन तो देंगे ना भगवान. ऐसे कैसे शॉर्टकट दे देंगे कि मैजिक वॉन्ड है, लो तुमको ये बून मिल गया. No, we have to work for it. So this is that beautiful verse where Bhagwan says, of course I will take you across this sansar sagar, mrityu sagar, in which we are all drowning because we think it is troublesome. Why do we think because of all the sukha dukha that we experience, and it's the man and buddhi which is actually experiencing it. And one of the gurus actually said that God made this world sansar, purposely he made it troublesome. Why? So that one fine day somewhere someone will get up and say, look, I want spiritual merging with that Param Tattva. If he had not made the world, the sansar, troublesome, we would be sunk in it, neck deep sunk in it, and never ever get the chance to actually realize. So to seek the truth somewhere, one guru said that, yeah, it's purposely troublesome. Why? Because in this world, if you look for love, you don't find unconditional love. If you look for a body, you don't find that your body is perfect. And in fact, it's not only imperfect, but it comes with an expiry date. So Bhagwan has played this trick to say, देखो तुमको सामने दिख रहा है, there is no unconditional love, at least not in the sansari sense. And nothing in the world, including your own body, is permanent. Everything has come with an expiry date. ये पूरा bold letters में लिखा हुआ है. Every day we see people around us passing away or losing their wealth or whatever. These are the bold letters emblazoned on the wall. But no, we don't take our message from it. We don't take our warning from it. And so despite the fact that all the situations in the world and objects and relationships are not always pleasurable, we are sunk in it. Had it not been so, it would be worse. So now at least we have a chance to see the impermanence and the instability and actually the purposelessness of this illusion, moha, this moha, mithya, called sansar. So now the thing is, if everything is impermanent, then the seeker says, oh, I know there is a trick in this game that I am playing. I am looking for something permanent. And God says, look, I am waiting with open arms. Can't you see that there is only one thing which is permanent? और तुम यहाँ से वहाँ दौड़ रहे हो, मुझे permanent चाहिए, love चाहिए, relationship चाहिए, beautiful body चाहिए, wealth भी permanent नहीं है, situations चाहिए, हर चीज में कहते हो कि मुझे permanent चाहिए और permanent नहीं मिलता तो you blame the sansar or the God. Neither of them are to be blamed. It is the very nature of sansar to be impermanent, and there is only one permanent. Bhagwan is also repeating it all the time through every scripture. There is only one permanent. Usko dharo to sahi, usko pakdo to sahi. And that is the truth of everything. Har cheez ka ek hi truth hai. And that of course is consciousness. Or you may call it God, because we are in the bhakti prasangs. Okay. What does he mean by Maya Veshita Chetasam in the last word? Keep your chetas, your mind, your conscious mind, your aware mind. ये नहीं कि absent-mindedly हम लोग तो बहुत कुछ करते हैं, जैसे पूजा भी करते हैं. I brush my teeth also absent-mindedly. वैसे ही पूजा आरती भी होती है. No. Bhagwan says chetas, conscious mind. If you keep on me, that's enough. So he says, those who look up to me and have a belief that I am the only permanent conscious, permanent truth, or only the permanent, that's all, full stop, they will reach out for me and I will reach out for them. Don't worry, both of us. So itna to karo. But those of us who treat the sansar as, oh, ये संसार तो मेरे भोग के लिए है, I am meant to extract every ounce of pleasure from this world. अब ये mindset लेके अगर हम चले, how far will we have to go in this past sun and heat and dust of the sansar before we find God? बहुत lifetimes लग जाएगी, क्योंकि ये mindset बचपन से हमको condition भी किया जाता है कि everything बच्चे तुम्हारे लिए है, तुम्हारे सुख के लिए है, मैं अभी तुमको और सुख देता हूँ. Materially we have created pleasure seeking monsters, if I may use the term. So he says, keep your mind on me, I am there. मैं भी तो वही हूँ, consciousness that is, वो तो कहीं गया ही नहीं है. It's like opening the window and then saying, oh, sunlight. इसमें क्या surprise है? खाली window open करने की देरी थी and the sunlight is there. तो मैं अपना काम करते हुए फिर मैं कैसे मन आप पर रखूँ? तो ये तो बड़ी अजीब बात है, क्योंकि so if I am a professor or a teacher or a dancer or a parent or a daughter or a doctor, okay, I may not keep my mind constantly on the fact that I am any one of these things. Consciously तो मेरा मन उस पर नहीं है कि मैं parent हूँ, मेरा बच्चा है. But do we ever forget it also? That's the trick. Smriti, स्मृति में यानी इन रिमेम्बरेंस, ऑफ कोर्स आई रिमेम्बर आई एम अ डॉक्टर और अ प्रोफेसर और अ साइंटिस्ट और एन आर्टिस्ट, पर विस्मृति में, इवन विदाउट रिमेम्बरेंस कॉन्शियसली, आई नो आई कैन नॉट फॉरगेट दैट आई एम अ डॉक्टर और अ पेरेंट और अ डॉटर. सो जब लाइफ में वी नो दिस एक्सपीरियंस ना, कि विस्मृति में भी और स्मृति में भी मैं जिस चीज को स्वयं समझ के रखा हूँ वो मैं नहीं भूल सकता. आस्क अ मदर, कैन शी एवर फॉरगेट शी इज अ मदर? शी मे बी अ प्रोफेशनल, शी मे बी अ पायलट, शी मे बी अ CEO ऑफ अ कंपनी, बट हाउ कैन शी फॉरगेट शी इज अ मदर? वो विस्मृति में भी याद रहता है और स्मृति में भी. स्मृति मीन्स रिमेम्बरेंस एंड विस्मृति इन नॉट कॉन्शियस रिमेम्बरेंस. इसी तरह से भगवान कहते हैं, एक बार यू लैच ऑन टू मी, यू विल फाइंड with abhyasa, abhyasa is also coming up now, with abhyasa what will happen is you will in all your interactions remember, especially interactions where you are reacting and where the situation is causing you dukha or even excitement. In all those situations you will remember, अरे मैं तो केवल आत्मा हूँ, गॉड इज ऑलवेज विथ मी. या जिस तरह से भी याद रखें, भक्त कहता है गॉड इज विथ मी एंड ज्ञानी कहता है आई एम प्योर कॉन्शियसनेस. दोनों तरीके से स्मृति आप कैसे भी स्मृति कर सकते हैं, लेकिन दोनों का उद्देश्य एक ही है कि मैं इस एक्साइटमेंट या इस दुख को भोग करने नहीं आया हूँ. यस, इट इज पार्ट ऑफ माई जर्नी, दैट्स ओके. जैसे ही ये स्मृति होती है, भगवान कहते हैं ये चेतसाम, ये आप क्यों नहीं रिमेम्बरेंस रखते? जैसे कि एक डांसर होता है, वो स्टेज पर डांस करता है और एंड देन ही कीप्स ट्विर्लिंग एंड टर्निंग एंड देयर इज ट्रेमेंडस अमाउंट ऑफ मूवमेंट ऑफ द आईज एंड एक्सप्रेशन एंड हेड. डज ही एवर लूज द कॉन्शियसनेस एंड कीन रिमेम्बरेंस ऑफ द रिदम ऑफ द सॉन्ग? द मोमेंट ही लूजेस द रिमेम्बरेंस और द chetas, let's call the word chetas because English is, I flounder when you read words like that with such precision. Chetas is what the dancer keeps on the rhythm of the song. जैसे ही उसका मन डांसर का रिदम से हटा, maybe he will do the movements but they will be out of sync. लेकिन उसका मन तो रिदम से जाता ही नहीं. And yet he is doing the, giving the expressions and there's a lot of beautiful aesthetic movements, everything is going on. Vismriti में भी और स्मृति में भी, at the back of the mind the rhythm is what dictates everything. So this is an experience of the dancer. और आप कहते हो कि नहीं, I cannot really keep this God consciousness in mind all the time. हाँ, I agree, because Bhagwan himself has said in one of the verses, yes, in the 5th verse of this chapter 12, he says, Dehavadbhira vapyate. I understand that people with bodies find it hard to keep this remembrance. देखो, हमारे पास बॉडी है तो हमको याद रहता है कि मैं मदर हूँ या टीचर हूँ या whatever. वो नहीं भूलता, बिकॉज वो मेरा और माइंड उससे जुड़ा हुआ है. मेरा बच्चा या मेरा प्रोफेशन या मेरा बिजनेस, मेरा और माइंड जुड़ा हुआ है. तो इट्स नॉट इजी, इट्स नॉट डिफिकल्ट टू कीप दैट रिमेम्बरेंस एट द बैक ऑफ द माइंड. बैक ऑफ द माइंड हमेशा रहता है. लेकिन ये आत्मा है, आई डोंट हैव अ डायरेक्ट एक्सपीरियंस ऑफ इट. इसमें डायरेक्ट एक्सपीरियंस नहीं है तो मेरा और माइंड तो जुड़ेगा ही नहीं. कैसे जुड़ेगा? मैं और मेरापन उसमें आता ही नहीं है. एंड देयरफॉर we find it hard to keep our smriti on consciousness. Bhagwan has admitted, he said, tum log poor fellows, you have these bodies na, which is a big obstruction between you and me, between Atma and Paramatma. तो पहले ये obstruction समझ तो लें, only then we can handle it. Therefore, मेरा और मैंपन नहीं है, इसलिए याद ही नहीं रहता. So Bhagwan says, okay, don't despair, no problem, I have another trick up my sleeve, so that you can even surmount that difficulty. So moving to verse number 8. Chapter 12. Mayeva mana adhatsva, mayi buddhim niveshaya. On me, if you fix your mind, yeah, adhyastva, fix on me, mayi buddhim, intellect, niveshaya, place it on me. Your buddhi, you place it on me. Nivasishyasi mayeva, you will live in me. Nivasishyasi mayyeva, you will live in me. Atha urdhvam na samshayaha, hereafter you will always live in me. Asamshayaha, do not have any doubt about it. You know how many times he has mentioned asamshaya ya na samshayaha? Because every time he can see the listener, it could be Arjun or it could be us who have this expression of skepticism on the face, ki really God? I mean, you really mean it? Ki I am going to be liberated by doing these things which are... The skepticism को देख लेते हैं भगवान, disbelief, श्रद्धा भी कुछ ही लोगों को आती है. It is the grace of God कि श्रद्धा आती है. हमारे पास तो श्रद्धा भी नहीं है, ज्ञान भी नहीं है. दोनों तरीके से हम we are handicapped. So Bhagwan says compassionately, don't worry, na samshayah, believe me first that you will live in me, nivasishyasi, as Paramatma, because I am Atma, right? Another small example I wanted to give was that of a father whose child behaves in a certain way. In the morning he is cranky, and in the afternoon he is extremely sleepy, and in the evening he gets really wild and restless and says he wants to go out, and in the night once again he is disobedient, and sometimes he is really lovely and cuddly. He's got a son. Now in all these actions the father remains samabuddhihi. He does not lose trust that he is still my son and my love for him remains the same. वो trust तो कभी shake नहीं होता ना, चाहे कुछ भी हो. Samabuddhihi, the father or the parent remains samabuddhi through all the antics of the child. Therefore, do not think that when Bhagwan is saying that you are capable of single pointed attention on me, it is not that he is asking us for the impossible. We have seen it in Sansar. We are capable of it. In fact, Nitya Yukta, we have been so single-pointedly determined in achieving some of our worldly gains and been successful. Have we not been Nitya Yukta, had we not had the capacity to be so single-pointed, we wouldn't even have achieved the worldly gains. So, Bhagwan is simply saying that power is with you. I'm only asking you to redirect that power of Nitya Yukta, single-pointedness, devotion and attention which you give to the world, like your son, your daughter, your parents, all the things which you have rag to, my car, maybe if it's a Mercedes, my mind may go to it every now and then. How's my car? Let me go and check. Whatever you are attached to, जैसे मन बार बार भागता है ना उसकी तरफ, you have that power. Just redirect that power to me. That's all he is saying. So, sometimes we keep our mind, we are all novice seekers, let's say, beginning seekers. तो हम लोग का मन कभी कभी भगवान में लग जाता है, जैसे सत्संग हुआ, क्लासेस हुए, या किसी ने कोई वीडियो भेज दिया बहुत ही थॉट प्रोवोकिंग. ऑफ कोर्स माय माइंड विल गो टू दैट अल्टीमेट ट्रूथ. लेकिन कभी कभी जब हम अपना मन भगवान में लगाते हैं, इट्स अ टेम्पररी एस्केप. It's like, okay, let me get away from the noise of the world and from the noise of my own mind. Because my mind is always noisy about this and that. Let me escape into this beautiful satsang. Or if I'm a bhakta, then mandir, and then go and do bhajan. बहुत शांति मिलती है, no doubt. No doubt. But then it's an escape. But if you keep your mind always on me, Bhagwan says, then it is a yoga. It attains the level of a yoga shakti. If you learn to keep your mind on me or remember me in the background as the truth of everything that's going on in your life right now, the excitement, the disappointments, the sukha and dukkha, everything, and in the back of the mind, I am the truth, that consciousness or God, I am the truth of everything. वो mind में अगर चलता रहे like a background music ना, then Bhagwan says, yes, then I have hope for you. Chetasam, mind. Chetasam. So, यामति सा गतिर भवेत. जैसे ये मन की दशा, वैसे ही हमारी गति होगी. गति means our destiny. Where we will end up finally depends on the quality of the mind. Mayyeva manaha. Bhagwan says in the first word, in the 8th verse, he says Mayyeva manaha. That means I need your emotions also. I don't need just your buddhi. See, why has Bhagwan come upon this new trick? Because there are many of us who through logic are still floundering to find that ultimate God. And Bhagavan says, look, I have a method for you. You can now saturate your mind in me. Why? Because then the emotions take over. Bhakti mein emotions take over. और ज्ञान योग में बुद्धि has become predominant. And buddhi is floundering. ये कैसे होगा, वो कैसे, skepticism, नहीं ऐसे कैसे हो सकता है, मेरे पास तो ये body इस वक्त है, whatever. So Bhagavan says, okay, just turn to the heart or the mind. Mind actually is the center of emotions, and then fix that mind on me. Now it's easy. Now we are beautifully gliding into Bhakti Yoga, remember. Why? Because it is the same mind which said skeptically, I don't understand. Aapko sagun chahiye, nirgun chahiye, all those questions of Arjun. Bhagavan says, do one thing. Do sagun bhakti. Take a beautiful marble idol or a brass or bronze idol, and that's why it is not a coincidence. It is not a coincidence that no matter where you go in the world, if you go to these beautiful churches in Italy or Venice or even in Salisbury in England, or if you go to Madurai, or it is not a coincidence that the sculpture is of ethereal quality. It has the aesthetics which is almost divine in nature. Why? Because the devotee can then fix his mind on something that is so ethereal, so divine, and so supremely aesthetic. It's not a coincidence that whenever people have wanted to do something for God, like make temples or churches, they have given their very best to the architecture and sculpture. So he says, take a beautiful marble. Bhagavan has no problem with it. Bhagavan knows very well he is not a marble idol. But see how compassionate. He's saying, okay, now it will satisfy your emotions. Now you can put your mind on it and your heart on it. You can talk to the idol, and your senses which were running around in the world. Senses ही भाग रहे थे ना दुनिया में. अब वो senses एक जगह एकत्रित हो गए हैं. क्यों? क्योंकि there is the sound of mantra. My mind was on the sound of sansar. There is the sense of olfactory sense, जिसको कहते हैं, fragrance. So there is the fragrance. All my senses are satisfied. There is the fragrance of agarbatti. There is this beautiful sound of the bells, and there are these lovely flowers which I can offer, and the idols there. Why all this? Because the senses now, instead of running out into the world, are going to be fastened onto something which is a symbol. Okay, Bhagavan has no doubt it's a symbol, but he's saying, even if you do that, you will finally reach me. क्योंकि अगर हम अपने देश से प्रेम करते हैं ना, तभी हम उस फ्लैग को या उस झंडे को रेवरेंस के साथ देखते हैं या छूते हैं. If I didn't love my nation, I would have no respect for the flag. It's not the other way around. I love my flag, but I don't know what this nation is all about. It's all rot. I'm going to leave the country. I'm going to get away from this corruption. It's all a big bag of corruption. I have no respect for my country, and then I say I love my flag. It cannot be the other way around. The flag is the symbol. The real love is the tattva. So Bhagavan says, okay, you can start with the symbols, and then you can do satsangs. You can read the biographies of great Mahatmas. तो तुम्हारा मन वहाँ लगा रहेगा. And when we read the biographies of Mahatmas and we do satsang, or if we do studies together in a group, that's also kind of satsang, or tirtha yatras, what has happened? It's the emotions. Emotions are finally satisfied, and they're calmed down from running amok in the excitement of the world. Okay, fine. Then he says, Mai buddhim niveshayah. Sorry, I need your buddhi also. Don't just give me your emotions. Why? Because then it will become like an empty emotionalism. Oh, I love you, God, and I cry at your feet, and I bawl at your feet, and then I whip myself into a frenzy. We've seen all that in blind worship. In villages they do that. Whipping yourself into some mindless, frenzied emotionalism. Bhagavan says, no, sorry, I don't need that. I'm doing this for your sake. I don't need your emotionalism. Now, Vivek, Mai buddhim niveshaya means what? Place your intellect also in me. What does it mean by intellect? See, the buddhi is needed even to decide कि मेरा उद्देश्य क्या है. The heart, the emotions can't decide that. Heart and emotions are very emotional. Only the buddhi can decide through vivek. Vivek is the quality of discernment. What is right, what is wrong, what is sat, what is asat, what is permanent, impermanent. I can decide my uddeshya. So even my uddeshya or my goal can be decided by what? Only buddhi. So Bhagavan says, I need your buddhi, please. Don't just dump it and come to me and fall at my feet. It won't help. And also to choose what is my uddeshya, I need buddhi, and also to be dridha nishchaya. This is my uddeshya and I cannot be shaken from it. I need my buddhi to hold on to it. Emotions will not help over there. So buddhi needed. Definitely buddhi is needed. And then he says, Nishchaya Yatmika. Second line, Nishchaya. I am going to so you are going to use this buddhi to reach me. For what? For Bhagavad Prapti. How? Because obstacles, as in the buddhi also, there are these two robbers, these two abductors who are hiding in the buddhi also. Raga and Dvesha. राग is saying भोग करो, भोग का संग्रह करो, जो भी चीज़ अच्छी लगती है उसमें अटैच होते जाओ, भोग करो, और जो नहीं अच्छी लगती है उसको resist और reaction के साथ get into काम क्रोध. Now these two obstacles are still there. I need the buddhi to clear myself, to unentangle myself from that. So this is okay. So if there is only, what does the buddhi do? It does only vivek. What does the heart do? It saturates itself in love. So you can choose to have the love for God, and we are speaking the language of pure bhakti now, and that love then becomes unconditional. If it is unconditional, then these are the two functions Bhagavan says, if they run together, then it is a perfect way to reach me. Where did we start? We started saying कि सगुण करे कि निर्गुण, ज्ञान भक्ति करे कि ज्ञान योग करे कि भक्ति योग करे. Why is it that some people just study all their lives and they just end up becoming scholars or lecturers of that subject, whatever the subject? So and they also wonder, the Gyanis or the scholars, let's call them, not Gyanis, Jnani is a different word. The scholars start thinking, what are these people doing, ringing bells in the temple all day long and falling at the feet, and both can't understand each other. Now Bhagwan has explained why I need both, your heart and your head. And Chinmayaji had said very clearly that if it is bhakti without understanding Gyan, what is that tattva, तो फिर मैं किस फ्लैग की भक्ति कर रहा हूँ, मुझे नेशन के बारे में ही कुछ नहीं मालूम है. So then it becomes bhakti without knowledge of Gyan, of tattva, becomes superstition. It becomes andhvishwas. And if it is Gyan without bhakti, it is dry as the desert sand. Both ways. So neither of the two ways are higher or lower. Bhagwan says very beautifully, why don't you offer me both? Mayeva mana adhastva and mayi buddhim niveshayah. बुद्धिम भी चाहिए मुझे. और बुद्धि में क्या करते हैं? श्रवणम, मननम, निधिध्यासनम. हाँ ठीक है, बहुत करिए. एक समय ऐसा आएगा that you will want to go beyond the words and say कि this is too much of verbosity. I want to just उस चीज में लीन हो जाना चाहता हूँ. You know, it's like lovers and they in the beginning they talk a lot. तुम क्या करते हो, मैं क्या करता हूँ, ये वो है, oh they talk a lot and they're always on chat and always on WhatsApp. After, if they really fall in love, that is, then they actually don't need words at all. Then they are comfortable in the complete silence, the silence that pervades between them. That is the kind of merging that Bhagwan is looking for, where you don't even need words later. So in the 6th chapter, may I just recall a little bit, Bhagwan had said, yato nishcharati, on whatever your mind dwells, manaschanchalam asthiram, the mind keeps wandering out into the world, tatas tato niyam yaitada, it remains there out there, and atman yeva vasham nayet, So if you focus on me, it will keep coming back to me. Which means every time it wanders out, yato, whenever it wanders here and there, here, just tatastato, just pull it back to me, na? How simply, how sweetly he is entreating like a lover. Yeah, ऐसा कर दो ना कम से कम. जब भी मन कहीं कहीं भागे, तभी 6th chapter में कहा गया था, 26th verse में, वशम नयेत, and then you will be constantly with me. जैसे they keep reminding each other, call me, WhatsApp पे, and then people say, no, I'm too busy with other things. What are these other things? N number of sansari things. And then in the 6th chapter, Bhagwan had also said, in the same strain he had said, Shanay, beautiful words. Shanay Ruparamed, Dhire Buddhaya Dhriti Grihitaya. Slowly, when you keep drawing your mind back, every time it wanders off, slowly the conviction will drop into your mind. You will be slowly convinced of our oneness. And therefore he said, yes, it's not a one-shot thing maybe. Shanay, it takes time. 6th chapter ka I'm just recalling. Atma samshayam manaha kritva. Samshayam. So you have to have that mind control. Na kacchedapi chintayet. There will come a time when your mind will be on me only and always. There will come such a time. Okay. So this was because of Dhyan Yoga being explained in 6th chapter. Now, okay, so the Bhakta has been reined in or sort of gathered into one place to be quiet, to be silent, to contemplate and to just revel in that beauty of pureness, because in that love, whatever the love, of course sansari things we know that it is not long lasting, but when this love of bhakti comes, then there is a purity, because then there is no space for krodh and for resentment and for anger, and therefore these ashuddhiya naturally get depleted or washed off. So he says, bhakti karo, theek hai, bring your mind to that place, bring your heart to that place where I am, because you are looking for wholeness, for completeness and for changelessness, because wholeness is in changelessness only. You are looking for all that. And in the 2nd chapter, he had already said that Dehi nosmin yatha dehe kaumaram yauvanam jara. Your own body, you see, has changed over a period of time, but yet there is something which is changeless in you, which has continued as you. When you know that there is a changeless in you, and I, the Paramatma, is in any case a changeless entity, then what is the difference? You and I are the same. There is a changelessness in you. And then what is your relationship with this Chetan world, the world which is not Chetan, which is not conscious, which is inert, and which is not even Nitya, it is Anitya. What is our relationship with this Achetan and Anitya world? Nothing. It is a relationship of foolishness. It is a relationship of dependence. I am dependent on the world. Sukh aayega, dukh aayega. Sukh aayega, dukh aayega. I am totally dependent. You say, Bhagwan says, why don't you just shake off the shackles of your own bondage, of identifying with the world, and this Achetan and Anitya world, you will shake it off, because you have seen that if you are changeless, so am I. And you are conscious, right? So am I. We are made of the same tattva. Yes, I know I am conscious. So I am made of the same tattva as Bhagwan consciousness. So I'll end with the story. It's like that Murkha Putra, the foolish son, who lived in this huge, beautiful palace of his father. And his father was a very big merchant. He almost had not a palace, but a huge mansion. And this young man finally said, as he was growing up and he wanted to be a rebel, when you're growing up, you are a rebel without a cause. You just want to rebel and you don't even know what the cause is. So he got this rebellious streak in him, as all teenagers do. And he said, I am going to be independent. I want the 2 top rooms of this mansion as only mine. The father said, okay, no problem. Those 2 rooms on the top of the mansion are yours. So now this man started believing that he was the owner, and he was so happy that he had earned that independence. And finally, when he grew up, he realized, oh, this entire mansion actually belonged to the same father and the same edifice, the same mansion. It's all mine anyway. तो ये हम अपने आप को जो अलग किए हुए हैं ना, मैं ये जीव हूँ, माई इंडिविजुअलिटी इज दिस, योर इंडिविजुअलिटी इज दैट. भगवान कोई और तत्व है और मेरा नेबर कोई और तत्व है, मेरा पड़ोसी देश कोई और, मैं पड़ोसी देश में कोई और रहते हैं और मैं कहीं और मैं अपना तत्व मेरा कोई और है. ये पहचानने में जब गलती करते हैं, वी आर लाइक दैट फूलिश सन लिविंग इन द सेम मैंशन ऑफ सुपर कॉन्शियसनेस विच परवेड्स एवरीथिंग, जिसमें सभी रहते हैं. भगवान भी जैसे वो फादर था, ये पूरा मैंशन भगवान का है. अपने को अलग कर लिया कि मैं इंडिविजुअल जीव हूँ. भगवान से ओके, यू कैन सफर ऑन योर ओन देन. आई डोंट हैव अ प्रॉब्लम अंटिल यू रियलाइज दैट आप उसी मैंशन में रह रहे हो जो मेरा दिया हुआ है. And you are most welcome to be there with love and gratitude. I welcome you to be in it. So that's the story of the foolish son who thought that he gained his independence by being in by acquiring 2 rooms in the same mansion, the same world. Now, as we move ahead, in the following class, we are going to see. Because Arjun's mind, like our mind, is saying that look, Raga Dvesh is easy, Bhagwan, for you to talk about it, and I can't even put my mind on Bhagwan. I can't even put my mind on an idol, on a murti. I can't sit still. When I sit at the altar, I'm quite restless. My legs are shaking, my eyes are wandering. Bhagwan says, okay, don't despair. Any other religious teacher now would have despaired at this point to say, bas tum jano. Bhagwan says, no, I'm going to take you through, and even if you cannot feel the bhakti in an altar or sit quiet at an altar, I have another way out for you, and that's coming up in the 9th verse of the 12th chapter. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. 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 हरिः ओम् श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः हरिः ओम् 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 हरिः ओं श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः हरिः ओं 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 हरिः ओं श्रीगुरुभ्यो